The Imprint Margaret Root Brown reading series is proud to announce a night with two renowned poets, Jennifer Chang, who won the William Carlos Williams Award, and Naomi Shihab Nye, National Book Award finalist and former U.S. Young People's Poet Laureate. Hear them both live on March 3rd at the Alley Theater. Tickets are only $5 and free for students and seniors. There's also going to be a book sale thanks to Brazos Bookstore and a book signing where you can meet the authors. Visit imprint.org for more details. That's imprint.org. Galentine's Day is coming up on February 13th, and ladies, Treveley Park in downtown is where you need to be to celebrate. There's a lot to do, like creating custom bouquets, decorating cookies, and you can even create Galentine's Day cards. So grab all the gals and head to Treveley Park. This event is free, but register at downtownhouston.org/calendar. The first 60 to register will also receive a personalized pink hair bow. Come celebrate Galentine's Day at Treveley Park, downtown Houston. Get energized and revived. Before we get to today's show, the CityCast Houston Summer Camp Guide is live this week. Check it out on our website and in Hey Houston. Today's featured camp is AD Players Theater Camp. The camp runs from June 9th through August 1st and welcomes students of all skill levels, from rising third graders through 8th grade. The camp is built on Christian principles, promoting kindness, compassion, and empathy while learning about acting and performance. There's 3 locations around the city. You can learn more at adplayers.org. Today on CityCast Houston, thousands of students in HISD stayed home last week to protest the district superintendent. But will he listen to the kids? I'm bringing on Nusaiba Mizan, who covers HISD for the Houston Chronicle, to talk about that and more in the wildest school district in Texas. It's Monday, February 10th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, Nusaiba, how are you?
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk about this because you've been covering this, and this sick out, by the way, by HISD students got national attention. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so a local advocacy group, Community Voices for Public Education, organized a day of mass student absence last week on Wednesday. And the plan was that parents can keep their students at home for the entire day or for part of the day, and in protest of the district's state-appointed leadership. The district took notice of this. It also responded as well, so that also added some more attention to the organized day of absences, and parents protested that morning as well.
So both KPRC and KHOU were on the ground talking to the parents. Let's hear some of the protests and also from one of the parents.
Equity is what we're fighting for.
We're here because we have an unelected school board doing things that we have not approved of. They have come in and basically destroyed the infrastructure of our schools. They have no confidence from most of the teachers. We've lost most of our teachers, our career teachers who have very good records of student success. And we just want them out. They don't have our trust, and we will not give them our money until they earn our trust, which is through an election. So this board has to go.
Yes, that's similar to some of the things I heard parents tell me, that they're concerned about teacher departures and teacher turnover and the level of experience and certification in teachers. They are concerned with there being an unelected board and the board's willingness to respond to community demands. That's definitely some of the things that I heard from multiple parents when talking to parents outside of Wharton Dual Language Academy last week.
Now, this was pretty big, right? And again, the takeover, it was 2 years ago. People have been resistant. We saw what happened with the bond, the community, that was almost like a protest saying that, no, we're not down with this leadership. But this resistance has grown. Why now for such a big one?
So I think there's a couple of moving parts. One is that protests really gained momentum after abrupt departures of principals at the end of last year. That's when the district saw a lot of school-based protests happening, parents just hearing about their principals abruptly departing and not really knowing what were the causes for it. And so that really added fuel to the fire. And so a lot of parents also point to their favorite teachers leaving or known administrators leaving, and that after a year of departures, has added a lot of like personal reasons why people might come out and protest or to participate in an action like this.
Now, the second part of this is like with a protest, who notices, right? And I know the district did respond. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But did anybody else notice regarding the protests on a state leadership level or anybody else that could get something done?
So I think that state leaders are watching what's happening in the district and these protests. It wouldn't be new that like state leadership has been watching what's happening in the protests. Because you have to be seen really what actions might come from this, whether this is another data point for state leaders to look at and think, okay, well, this is signaling the sentiment of local community members about what's happening in the district and whether something needs to change or whether different communications need to take place given the sentiment that's occurring right now in the district.
Hey, by the way, just how big was this protest and what did the kids do while they were out of school?
So the Community Voices for Public Education estimate around 3,000 students stayed home. Some students were playing at home. I was visiting the home of one Wharton student, and his friends were playing Legos and board games at home after a morning protest outside their school. I heard anecdotally that there were like pods as well, sort of like student groups who went to the museum, as well as were at like a local environmental justice groups offices as well, spending time in story time or playing outside as well.
That's awesome. We're like developing the next generation of very proactive students. I like this.
Definitely, a lot of parents were talking about how it was a lesson for their students about civil disobedience and collective action as well. They saw it as like another learning experience, just a different one.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the budget here. Okay, so stick with me for everyone at home. Texas school funding is based on attendance. So when kids are absent, schools actually lose money. How much do you think this costs HISD in their budget? And did the protesters explain that? Was it worth the cost?
That's a really good question. And it actually came up in questions to the advocacy group. And there wasn't a number or an estimate regarding that, but that is top of mind because the district already had a $528 million shortfall at the end of last academic year when planning for this one. And so the budget is on the forefront of everyone's minds, and attendance is a key component of that. So this day of mass student absences, combined with anecdotally hearing some students are staying at home due to concerns with immigration enforcement, it's unclear to what extent this is occurring. But those concerns with absences really do add up to possibly a funding hit for the district, though it's unclear to what extent, if at all.
And by the way, that immigration enforcement, President Trump's administration no longer counting schools and churches as a safe zone. So ICE officials can go in and, get anybody. So, that's the fear now with students and parents. Let's get to the reactions from HISD and, of course, Superintendent Mike Miles, who was put in by the state during the takeover, of course. If there's one thing that we've learned about Mike Miles, communication is probably not the best, right? And we've had him on. I've asked him about that before as well. So what did he communicate with the group? What did he say about the protests? Anything from him?
So what we heard from the district was a statement from their chief of public affairs and communications, Alexander Elizondo. There was a statement about like student absences and that skipping school would not like be to the best benefit of students. I think probably the critical piece of that is that the flyer that was circulating around asking students to stay home referred to the district's response to immigration safety as well. So it wasn't just protesting district leadership, although if you talk to parents at the protest last week, they were talking mainly about the district's reforms and leadership. They were also talking about immigration safety and what the district's messaging is regarding that. And so the advocacy group Community Voices of Public Education called the response week for Mr. Miles. And so that was really what the statement was centered around, was that it was, and the district said that it was cynical to exploit people's real fears regarding immigration safety right now. And so that was what their statement was more centered on.
Do you think Superintendent Mike Miles is going to listen to the families who protested, community leaders, students, anybody?
It has yet to be seen. Mr. Miles has really stayed the course when it comes to the reforms that he's implemented. So whether parents' criticism of very regimented courses and classes Whether he will act on that has yet to be seen, but generally speaking, he has stayed the course when it comes to implementing reforms.
Today's featured camp in the CityCast Houston Summer Camp Guide is the AD Players Theater Camp. There's something special about the stage that challenges and nurtures students. That's why the AD Players Theater Camp is a great option for your student. Campers will develop their acting, script writing, and design skills through a game-based approach that's focused on creative expression. Campers will thrive in a positive and encouraging environment centered on Christian values. And at the end of the camp, the young thespians will present an amazing showcase. The George Theater is proudly partnering with 3 locations, Crossroad Church, St. Mark Lutheran School, and Fort Bend Christian Academy as host sites for their camps this summer. Each camp is 1 week long, and sessions run June 9th through August 1st. Classes are divided into 3rd through 5th and 6th through 8th grades with 20 campers in each group. Space is limited, so sign up today at adplayers.org. Scholarships are available through online application. Look, there's no place like Texas, except when it comes to skiing or my personal favorite, snowboarding. And I get it, you're heading to snowier pastures, but before you leave Texas, grab one last taste of the real Texas in Amarillo. If you love a good Texas road trip like me, then Amarillo needs to be on the top of your list because it's quirky, wild, western, and a spontaneous city. I mean, where else can you spray paint a Cadillac, cruise down Route 66, and even find that perfect cowboy or cowgirl hat for rodeo season? Here's a pro tip for me. If you're driving to a ski destination, make sure you stop at Palo Duro Canyon right outside of Amarillo and hike in the 2nd largest canyon in the US. Heck, I think you should stop on the way back as well because of how amazing it is. After that hike, be sure to carb load on some Tex-Mex and then pop into a speakeasy in Amarillo and grab a well-deserved drink. The mountains may be calling, but Amarillo will make you proud to call Texas home. Start planning your trip to Amarillo at visitamarillo.com and après ski into the real Texas. All right, let's get to the future of this now, because we did have some people head up to Austin to talk to lawmakers about what's happening here in the future of the takeover and some laws regarding all of this. But can you remind people how the state takeover of HISD goes back to the state law that got passed under the radar?
Current kind of focus right now, as it pertains to takeover legislation, is that Senators Boris Miles, Cara Alvarado, and Molly Cook have proposed legislation that would take out the 2-year requirement for acceptable accountability ratings from the Texas Education Agency. So essentially, it appears that the proposed amendment would make it more feasible for the district to exit the takeover. There's a lot of exit criteria that the district has to meet, with that said, but that would affect the requirements for school accountability ratings. And there's a lot of other education policy that's at stake right now. And really, when I talk to local groups, they're actually talking more about like public funding or teacher pay, such as the Houston Education Association, the Houston Federation of Teachers as part of Texas AFT, the American Federation of Teachers. They're all kind of talking about larger public school funding and teacher pay issues.
What exactly do they want when it comes to funding and teacher pay?
There's a lot there, but mostly it's increasing like the per student allotment or increasing teacher pay and using some of the state's $24 billion surplus to increase teacher pay. So I mean, there's a lot of education policies at stake here. And then, of course, addressing vouchers. A lot of local groups are opposed to the use of taxpayer money on private school tuition. And so school vouchers is really what's at the forefront of right now.
And by the way, we're also following school vouchers here on CityCast Houston, and we talked to Representative Jean Wu. If you want to hear more about how the Democrats and Republicans could still block it, I've linked that interview in our show notes. So the people who headed up to Austin to talk to lawmakers, this was more about making sure that this guardrail is triggered correctly. It's not about getting Superintendent Mike Miles out. Am I right on this? Like, I'm confused on the meeting still.
Yeah, so I think local advocates are talking about Superintendent Miles and his leadership. I talked to the leader of the Houston Education Association, and she said one of the reasons why they want the takeover bill amended is because, in her words, she said that it allows people like Mr. Miles to step in, and there are no guardrails against people like him, in her words. And so his leadership and the tenor of his leadership is guiding a lot of these requests for an amended takeover bill.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you for clarifying that. All right, I want to end with this one. When I saw this story, I was like, what is happening at Lanier Middle School? And you set it up, okay? Because you got this reporting, all right? Tell me what exactly is happening at Lanier Middle School, and tell our listeners, because this is crazy.
Yeah, the short of it is that there's a rat infestation at Lanier Middle School. That's been a topic of conversation in the community for a couple of weeks now. The school has said that there are no rats in the instructional spaces like classrooms, but there are some sporadic reports. I've heard of at least one parent sharing that their child has seen a rat in the classroom. And so this is a continuing problem, although a couple parents say it's better. Some say it's not been better lately. But it really strikes at this question of like whether there's enough like maintenance of facilities on campus for parents. That's always been a point of discussion for the past couple of months. And so it just this question resurfaces about whether there's enough facilities and maintenance people to look at issues like this.
Hey, by the way, can you remind our listeners where exactly is Lanier Middle School and how big is it?
Yeah, Lanier Middle School is located in the River Oaks, Montrose area. It is a very popular middle school for its academics.
So it sounds on the surface like this is a big problem. Like, just how bad was it, and what do the parents describe it as?
There are a lot of pictures circulating around, or a lot of like anecdotes about seeing rats circulating around. I even had a student email me regarding it.
Oh my gosh.
One parent described it as mind-blowing, just the level of infestation, but also, again, raised questions about, can the district resolve this in a timely manner? And it's also a challenge, just given Lanier's age as well. And so, again, just raising a lot of parent questions.
One parent, by the way, said that her student, they had to stop their class to run away from the rats. There was also dead rats in the ceiling, leading to an odor and rat urine and feces in the school. And yeah, it goes back to the parents thinking like there's just not enough custodians to address cleanliness. And, you know, this is happening at Lanier Middle School. Any other schools experiencing anything crazy?
A lot of schools have like aging facilities. And so that is always a discussion for some schools. But I have not heard of another rat infestation.
Yeah. Now, if I was Mike Miles, this is not good, obviously, for a school, right? And parents are complaining, students are complaining. But this goes back to the bond where, you know, he was stressing and other leaders from HISD were stressing that these schools need more resources, right? They need more money. Did they use this as a play to like bring up like, hey, this is why we wanted to pass the bond. This is why we needed more money. And I know they're trying to figure it out. And there's, you know, the future of another bond, all that. That's a different episode. But did they use this as a chip to like bring it up and tell parents this is why we needed more money?
I haven't heard this specifically being used, but the discussions about AC and heating, aging facilities, that has been used as this is why we asked for a bond. And has yet to be seen whether this will come up as well in the discussions.
HISD's custodial staff, like, has it gotten smaller, bigger? Did that have anything to do with it if there were cuts?
Yeah, so we anecdotally know that there are fewer maintenance and custodians based on what local groups are saying and what parents have shared. But with that said, the district has affirmed that they keep as many as they need. And so I've committed to that earlier in the academic year.
Nusaiba, I know this is one of the craziest times being an education reporter in Houston covering HISD, and it's never a dull day. You're always covering something wild, it seems like. Is there anything happy that you've covered that you want to talk about where it's not about the state takeover?
Well, I will say, and I'm sure y'all have already talked a lot about this, but the snow we had a couple weeks ago, we got to talk to kids about playing in the snow, and it was just like obviously really gorgeous outside. And that was a more positive story, I think, just talking to kids about playing in the snow.
I'm sure that helped you as well. So I'm glad you had a chance to do that. And thank you so much for all this great reporting, keeping us up to date on what's happening in the wildest district in Texas, if not the nation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
That was Nusaiba Mizan. You can read her work in the Houston Chronicle. HISD parents, what are your thoughts on the protest and the takeover? Send us a message with the contact info in our show notes. Thanks. Be sure to subscribe to CityCast Houston if you're new here and share this episode with 3 parents. Did you enjoy this episode? Drop us a rating and review. It really helps us grow the show. And for more news, happenings, and moments of joy, subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Houston, with the link in our show notes. Thank you so much. That will do it for today. I'm Raheel Ramzanali. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new.
We visited.
Oh no, fire alarm. Of course.
I'm so sorry.
It's not your fault. Just let's see if I'm sure it'll end pretty quick. That's gonna make for a great blooper.
Should I-